Hi, I'm here today with Josh with Fairway Mortgage, and we're going to do a little interview. I have been hearing a lot, we do a lot of open houses, so we have a lot of first-time home buyers. There's a lot of confusion out there on what you have to do to be ready to buy a house, and today we're going to clear that up.
Yes,
we
are.
So we're going to test the mortgage guy to see if he knows what he's talking about. All right?
Sounds good.
I just put some notes here. I'm going to read them and see if you can pass the test.
Okay.
And then we'll decide if you want to use him or not, because we'll see how smart he is.
Fair.
Okay, first question. I want to buy my first house. Should I figure out what I want or what I can afford?
Ooh. I think starting with what you can afford is way better, because then you can only look at things and fall in love with things that will make you feel good every month when you're writing the check. So I highly recommend first finding out what you can afford before you get too deep into the...
He passed the test on number one. We have 7 questions here for him. And I wouldn't let him look at these ahead of time, so he doesn't know. I'll let you know if he fails. Okay, number 2. Should you save up, or should you look at 20% down and just think, I'm only going to buy a house when I get 20% to put down on a house, or should I consider something else?
This is first-time buyers.
First-time buyer.
So I think I've been doing loans for nearly 20 years, and I think on less than 2 hands I could count the people that put 20% down their first time buying. If most people, if they saved up for 20%, they would never own a home.
There you go. So just on average, you said less than 10. So on average, what do 95%, what would you say most people put down on their first home?
Most first-time buyers will put between 3 and 5% down.
Okay.
Is where they're
So if we are buying a $250,000 house and I have $8,000 in the bank and a really great realtor that could possibly help me with some closing costs.
One right here.
Then maybe you might be ready to start talking about that.
For sure. And there's things we can do to help with closing costs, which we go over in our loan consults. And then there are some programs out there too that can help with even down payment.
You go. So. Bonus points on that one. Yeah. Not only did you get it right, bonus points. Okay. So we figured out we want to know what we can afford. We figured out we don't need 20%. We figured out Josh likes the camera. And
the microphone.
And the microphone, which I don't usually use, but he was excited about. Okay, number 3. How do we figure out the real number of how much we need to save? Do we just times 3%, times 5%? Is there a right or wrong? At what point should you start talking to a lender about how much you should save? Yeah.
So when the ideal time is when you first commit to the idea of maybe buying a house.
Okay.
So we'll schedule a consult where people will either come into the office, or we do a lot of video calls too. And we just go through credit, income, budget, and we show people the different loan programs they qualify for, and then talk through okay, here's the actual money you need total, and work through that so they have a really clear picture before they start.
So the answer is don't guess. You need to talk to a lender as soon as you think you're going to buy a house.
Because many times we can share information to accelerate somebody's ability to where they are able to buy maybe sooner than they thought. And so with prices and rates probably going up both, if you can buy now and it makes sense for your life, it usually helps if people can accelerate that. And sometimes we can have that outcome.
Like for example, today I have someone coming in. They told me they've been renting for 7 years and they didn't think they could buy a house. I don't know if they can, but we're going to start the conversation.
We'll find out.
And now's a really good time to start that conversation.
For sure.
Okay.
Worst case scenario, they leave with a great plan. Best case scenario, they figure out they can buy a house sooner than they thought. So.
Exactly. Okay. Talking about plans, creating a timeline. Should you try to create the timeline by yourself, or if not, who should you consult to create a timeline when you want to buy your first house? By yourself, or consult someone? And then if you consult someone, who?
By yourself, I think, is risky. It leaves room to make mistakes that you later regret. So I always recommend a professional. So a good real estate and mortgage team is the best help, especially when they communicate well.
Okay.
We do. Because then, we're sharing information, we're talking, and we're helping serve that person to the best of their ability. What makes
so
sense
there is value in working with a realtor and one of the realtors, people that they trust in the
Correct.
lending, because then everyone's working together. It's a full
Yes.
team effort,
Yeah.
right? Okay. You have credit cards. I have so much credit card debt. Not really. But let's pretend I had so much credit card debt. Should I work on which is best? Should I start saving money for my down payment? Should I start paying off credit cards? Like, where do I know how to start?
That's a great question. So the blessing and the curse right now with the state of information and the internet is it's very easy to get information. Like if you Google, hey, I'm buying a house, what should I do? You'll read 27 different opinions on what you should do.
Right.
Okay.
That's why we're asking you.
Yeah. So the advice I always tell everyone is don't do anything until we talk. Because sometimes it makes sense to pay down the credit cards. Sometimes it makes sense to keep that money for cash to close.
Okay.
So it really depends on that person's situation. And I always tell people don't do anything. Sometimes people say, oh, I'll call you next month. I want to pay some things off. And then sometimes for that person, that's not the best thing.
Right.
And then it puts them more behind on their ability to go ahead and buy that house that they want.
So what you just told me was we go back to the professionals and you let the professional help you make the plan.
And we'll talk through it. It's not, and we're asking lots of questions, hearing what they're saying, and then putting the pieces together to see what's the best plan for them.
Perfect. I love it. Love it. Okay, so two more. You're at 100% right now.
All right, I like that.
Yeah. See, he's amazing. Okay. Do you think it's a good idea? The bank does not like me. Let me tell you what. Fairwinds, if you work for Fairwinds, you can comment below about how annoying I am, because I go in and there's the Karen and Wayne Wilkins account and there's a general checking account, and I might have 12 or 13 separate accounts. So that's how I do it. Makes sense to me. Works well for me. Drives my husband crazy. Every time he opens a statement, there's a new account, right? But that's where I like to hide all my money. So would you recommend them opening a separate account to pay into this goal money so that it doesn't get mixed in? Or do you think that's good practices? I personally I think this one's just an opinion. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah. So what I would say on that is you have to honor your money personality. So some people are spenders by nature, okay? And so if you're
did you just tell my husband I'm a spender by nature?
Maybe.
Okay.
Or some people just really compartmentalize things, okay?
There you go. That's the answer.
So my experience is there's two general types of personalities when it comes to money. Is like when money comes into your pocket, it just wants to get out. And so if you're that kind of person, definitely make a separate account and make it even like a forced automatic thing into there. Like if you say, hey, we need another X amount of money, divide it up, make it automatic. If you're someone that easily saves and money has a hard time getting out of your account, and having it separated doesn't drive you crazy, or not having it separated doesn't drive you crazy, then it's fine to leave it all in one account. For the loan,
but that is a good idea. Maybe people haven't thought about that, because we do live in a world where saving isn't as natural for most people.
Correct.
And so opening a separate account and just paying into it every month is a good practice.
It's not a bad idea. It could not hurt you for that.
There
for
you
sure.
go. Okay, thank you. So I think that means do it. That's what I think. Okay.
We'll go with that.
Creative ways to save faster. We live in a world where there's lots of needs. I need my coffee. I need my dry cleaning. I need my iPad. I need someone to iron. I need someone to clean my house. What do you recommend as far as needs versus the long-term benefits of homeownership? When money's tight, we live. You have school loans. You have lots of stuff coming at you.
So I give this analogy often.
Okay.
And so it works better if you're older, older than really young.
Are you old?
I would put myself in that category. I'm 38. So so if you remember when you first started driving, what the price of gas was.
Yes.
Or when you first bought your first gallon of milk, what was the price of a gallon of milk? Whatever's easier
gas
for you to remember.
Gas was 90 cents when I first started driving.
Mine was 99. So if you could guarantee yourself to buy that same price of gas for 30 years, would you take that?
Yeah.
So essentially, that's what people do when they buy a home.
Yeah.
So renting in different areas, it'll be different, but 3 to 5% a year is a pretty reasonable rent increase.
Right.
And so if you extrapolate that out over 30 years, that's a huge increase. A lot of people's income doesn't even track with that increase over time. So,
but your mortgage, if you get a mortgage, you're locked in.
You're locked in on the mortgage piece for 30 years if you take a 30-year fix, or 15 if you take a 15-year fix.
Which opens up to a great conversation, not today.
Yeah.
on do we have to pay our mortgage for 30 years? What are some tips to get rid of that?
That's a really hot
But
one.
we're not going to talk about
I can't wait
that
for
today.
that one. You
That'll
guys should
be
tune
another
in for
day,
that.
maybe next month.
Yes. So that's essentially what you're doing when you buy a home, when you own, is you're locking in that expense. And if you could do that with more things in your life, you probably would want to do it.
Okay.
So
I love it. Josh, you passed the test. I've brought this gift for you. It's a
golden Milky Way.
It's a golden Milky Way because your answers were out of this world.
And it's low cal. I appreciate that.
It's mini, so not too many calories. There you go.
Thank you.
It'll go great with your Coke Zero.
All right.